We are back for this week's episode of the Sonbeek podcast. I am joined by my good friend Eric Wiedeke from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. He's not on the mic over there, but he's doing behind the scene work for Ethan Skolnick, Chris Whittingham, and all those dudes over there. What's up, Eric?
Yeah, if you can call it work, it's a lot of fun. What can I say?
Yeah, you guys are doing big things. Well, people who don't know, me and Eric are actual friends in real life, and we are both big Dolphins fans, and we always talk about the Dolphins, so we decided to do it behind a microphone this time. So,
Yeah.
3 and
Yeah.
0. That's all you can say right now is 3 and 0. Like
Oh,
I've said it to like 100 people. I've messaged anybody that's ever said anything bad about the Dolphins and just simply said the words 3 and 0 and nothing else.
I mean, it's crazy that 3-0 gets you a 2-game lead in the AFC East this early.
It does, but yesterday was like the first time in my life I found myself rooting for the Patriots because I just felt that just the more the Patriots were losing by yesterday, is the worse the Dolphins might lose next week. So I'd rather the Patriots just win that game yesterday, except instead of having to worry about the 1-2 Patriots needing a statement versus Miami. Because
Oh, I get that.
this is just a game that the Dolphins will lose, and like we can just get into next week before we even talk about last week, because just next week is there any confidence in you that they will win that game?
I'm a solid 3 out of 10.
Solid 3 out of 10. Like, just the Patriots needing a statement game, Miami with all that hype going into New England. It's just that game that the Dolphins lose always.
The Dolphins need to run that weird offense with Albert Wilson at quarterback the entire game.
Just the entire game.
Tannehill's
Tannehill's been a wide receiver anyway. I don't know if you know that. He's been a wide receiver in college.
I haven't heard that actually.
Yeah, that's a thing many people don't know is Tannehill once played wide receiver at Texas A&M.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But no, I mean, the Patriots do look vulnerable so far. And to me, this is the worst we've seen Brady in a long time. So I'm still not confident about next week. But I am going to say this, and this might be a little too shocky, but not only is this a must-win game for the Miami Dolphins. Ready for this? Ready for this. Not only is it a must-win game for the Miami Dolphins, it is the biggest regular season game in 10 years.
1, no. 2, no.
It's must-win.
No. Well, yeah, maybe. I wouldn't even go that far.
No, it's must-win because you can't. You need to be 3 games up on the division. It's a must. Okay, it's a must-win if you want to win the division.
No, but you're moving the goalposts around here because at first you were like, well, if you win 3-0, that's why it's important to get 3-0 because then you can afford to drop this game. But now you're saying
okay, but we said that when we would say that we did that with the assumption that New England wasn't going to be 1-2.
Yeah,
and playing the worst football in a decade.
I don't know. I feel like that year that Brady looked really washed and they got beat up by the Chiefs on Monday Night Football was probably their worst football. But I kind of, yeah, but
they got dominated by the Lions.
Okay, and that kind of brings me to my point of what kind of game I think it's going to be next week. If the Dolphins lose, I don't see where the Patriots beat the Dolphins with their overwhelming offense. I can see them like shutting out the Dolphins, but I can't see them scoring a bunch of points.
No, but yeah, no, I can see that too. I can see it being one of those like a 17-0, 13-0 type affair. But I mean, to me, I think the Dolphins need to go back to what they were doing the first 2 weeks versus New England and stopping the run. And when it comes to the passing game, I like this strategy that teams seem to be doing is anybody but Gronk.
Well, I think when it comes to the passing game, that Miami has the defenders to go, won't be afraid to go one on one. They should just man up and they should, because their front four is really good. So they should man up, send one blitzing linebacker, just play one on one. Let Minka handle Gronk. Xavier Howard can handle Gordon if he plays, and just let the cards fall where they may.
So wait, who are you putting on Gronk?
Minka. That's why you drafted him.
Yesterday didn't make you a little nervous, or 2 days ago, or whatever it was
No, because
yesterday.
well, if Miami plays a zone, they're gonna get burnt in the middle because their linebackers suck at covering. I personally want to see a man, but I don't know if that's gonna happen.
What about T.J. McDonald?
TJ McDonald is a run stopper. I mean, he'd be physical with Gronk at the line, but I feel like anything more than 10 yards downfield, Gronk is just going to beat him all day.
Trade back for Deion Jordan.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's probably worth like a 5th-round pick at this point.
Jesus. I don't even want to get Deion. The Dolphins are 3-0. I don't want to talk about Deion Jordan, a serious Deion Jordan conversation. This is a new era of Dolphins football. I don't care. I'm coming into the hype. I'm going to have a podcast in 3 weeks about the 3-3 Dolphins, and I know it. But right now, I am hyped because the Dolphins are 3-0. But let's go back into yesterday's game at first. It didn't look pretty. It wasn't a pretty game. I thought that was a game the Dolphins lose usually.
Here's the thing, though. The Raiders have kind of been doing this all year, right? And I've kind of got a hot take on this now.
It's
John Gruden must be a real.
This podcast is for hot takes.
Okay, all right. John Gruden is an awful in-game adjustment coach because the first 3 games of this year, he's come out with a really good game plan, right, on offense for the first 2 quarters, maybe the first 2.5 quarters.
The game plan was amazing for Oakland.
Oh yeah,
Oakland's offensive plays the first quarter, what they were calling, the Dolphins couldn't stop it at all.
No, but as soon as the Dolphins made adjustments, there really wasn't anything there for Oakland except for maybe, the run game. But, the Dolphins were kind of beat up with Andre Branch and William Hayes going down and Spence getting ejected. It was,
Let me ask you this. Front 7 for real or no?
I'm a much bigger believer in the defensive line, but I'll go with, in general, they're for real.
They're for real?
Yeah.
I mean, they stopped the run the first 2 games. Marshawn had some runs yesterday. I mean, but he only ended up with 64 and 3.4 yards per carry, which is good. I mean, it's still pretty much containing Marshawn Lynch. But yeah, I mean, they look good. They were finally getting to the quarterback more. I saw they even got Donald Penn to give up 3 hurries.
Donald Penn got knocked out.
Yeah, he got knocked out, but before that, he gave up 3 pressures. So, I mean, they were getting to the quarterback yesterday, which they weren't really doing the first 2 weeks.
Which I wasn't concerned about because the Jets have a pretty solid offensive line. And, the Titans, for the most part, have a decent offensive line. So, those 2 teams, I can kind of see it. But
what impressed you the most? Like, what? Not even just yesterday. The first 3 games of this season, what has impressed you the most? And what would you say is their biggest fluke? Because obviously, let's be real. As much as we love it, they're not a 3-0. They're probably not a. Obviously, they're on pace to win 16 games, but like they're not a top 3 team in the league.
No.
So like what first let's say what is the fluke of this team? Like what's the flaw that a really good team, potentially New England, potentially Minnesota later on in the year, like what's a good team with a good coach going to go after because this team has this flaw that's kind of being hidden right now?
Well, you see, I think what a good team is going to eventually do against Miami is because Miami has this penchant, right, for like 90% of their offense is 5 yards and in, and then the other 10% is 20 yards and out. And I feel like good teams are just going to sit on those short routes and they're going to dare the offense to beat them all day on those big plays. Because the offense can make those big plays on occasion, but I don't know if they can consistently hit on something like that.
It seems like Tannehill and Stills just have this every other week formula going, and I feel like that's been going on for the past 2 seasons that Tannehill has played,
Right, but I feel like here's the thing: for the most part of Tannehill's career, his reputation has been that he can't throw the deep ball.
which is false.
However, I it is. I want to see, you know, what happens when teams start respecting that, because when you watch teams play the Dolphins, a lot of the times they play with 8, even 9 men in the box, because they just don't think that the Dolphins can beat them deep. So I want to see what happens when Tannehill is actually challenged that way.
And what do you think will happen when Tannehill is challenged that way?
To be honest, I know what I hope will happen. He's shown the ability to make those throws, but asking any quarterback to make those throws, not named, Aaron Rodgers, on a consistent basis is a tough task.
Yeah. And to me, the question I asked you with my answer is, I think it's been an obvious flaw that the linebackers aren't good. That was something that we knew coming into the season. With Baker and McMillan, it was going to be improved. But I think they've actually been overperforming a little bit. And I think
Baker
that
more
might be.
so.
Huh?
I'd say Baker's performing a little bit better than Raekwon at this point.
Yeah, no, but I'm just thinking as a unit, they've actually have not been exposed as much as we thought. They haven't been as big as a problem as we anticipated them to be. So I
Right.
can see, you know, them being exposed next week
By Gronkowski.
by Gronkowski. Which, it isn't. Obviously it happens to a lot of people, but I can see it. But, all right, so as we just mentioned 100 times, and I will keep saying it until they lose a game, the Dolphins are undefeated. They are 3-0. They are the best team in football. So when does this end? I mean, even if they lose to New England, I see the next 3 out of the next 4 out of the next 5 out of the next 6 games being like really winnable. At Cincinnati, at home versus Chicago, at home versus Detroit, at Texans Thursday Night Football, you never know, and then at home versus the Jets. When you start 3-0, obviously you have different expectations for games later on in the schedule when you're 0-0. When you hear that stretch of teams, you have to expect 4-2, including the New England game, right?
Yeah, I think you do. I think you do. I always think that Cincinnati's kind of overstated in how good they are. Not that they're not a good team. I think that they are, but Cincinnati's so hit or miss all the time that you never know what's going to show up in big games, especially primetime games, which Andy Dalton is notoriously a bad performer in.
Well, let's just be clear: the Texans game's the prime time, not the Bengals.
Oh, okay, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you start looking down the schedule, and this is the soft zone. Yeah, they have New England and Tennessee at the beginning of the season looked like a hard game. So you
The Jets
won.
look like a hard game after week 1.
Yeah, so that's the first 6 games, give or take 7 games of the season, up until the second Jets game. And if you're already 3-0, yeah, you need to start thinking 4-2 in that stretch, because then the schedule gets tough. You go to Green Bay, you're gonna go to Minnesota, you're gonna get New England again.
You mean go to Wisconsin?
What did I say?
You said go to Minnesota. Do you, do you
No,
know where
yeah, I'm the Green Bay Packers. They go to Green Bay. Then later on in the season, they will go to Minnesota to play the Vikings.
Oh, I thought Minnesota was in Wisconsin. Word to the Bills.
Oh, that's a joke that I didn't get. The Sonbeek podcast where crappy jokes happen. Thank you, Eric, for joining and just being very unfunny. But back to football. So like that's a tough stretch. That last 5 games of the season, 6 games of the season, you know, you have to go 4-2 in the next stretch and get into that 7-2 just so you can be comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, but let's be honest. Football is not a game that you can easily plan out what's going
No,
to
you
happen.
can't. You can't look down the schedule, but we love doing it, especially when you're
Yeah.
3-0. You love doing it.
I'm just saying, I don't think them being 6-3 going into that stretch is as catastrophic as you would think it is. Just
Okay,
because
no, the
how
6-3
much
obviously is good, but you can't go and you can't drop. You can't be 3-0 right now, and then drop 3 of your next 4.
Oh, the Dolphins will show you.
Oh no, I know they will, but that's how they prove they are not the Dolphins of the past 10 years, and this new Dolphins team is actually something serious.
Hashtag Dolphins culture.
Yeah, you're like one more bad joke away from just getting ejected out of here. But the Dolphins are now we're getting into hot takes. Dolphins culture right now is in a better place than Heat culture. And this is not a spite on the Heat because they're gonna go get Jimmy Butler, and that's gonna be good. I don't want to get too deep into that because that's a topic for another day for when the trade happens. But right now, the Dolphins, let me give this hot take too. The Dolphins are the most well-rounded team in South Florida and best positioned team in South Florida, and it might not be close.
Oh, well, yeah, they
I mean,
absolutely.
okay, shout out Florida Panthers. Like,
Yeah,
that's. Let's be real.
but yeah, no, the Dolphins out of, I mean, clearly, just because I think what they did this offseason was fantastic. You took guys that were overpaid and underproducing, at least from a team standpoint. Their individual stats were good, when you think about Sue and Landry, but from a team standpoint, it really didn't translate to wins. And I think you're getting a bunch of guys that what they do, they do a bunch of the little things and not even so little, but they do what it takes to win.
But that brings up an interesting thing for me. Is there a correlation right now between 3-0 and no Landry and Sue? Or would they still be 3-0 with Landry and Sue? Because, all right, I agree that Sue and Landry did not fit what Adam Gase was trying to do. They were overpaid. They weren't producing for the team. But at the end of the day, they were good players. Sue elite, Landry a little overrated, but nonetheless good players. Do you think there is a correlation between that, or it's just the Dolphins?
I think there is.
You think there is?
I kind of have a theory about the defensive line and why they're at least through 3 games better at stopping the run that they have been with Sue.
This is interesting because I would think that they would be the same with Sue, but they've been better off without Landry.
Here's my theory on Sue is I think the other defensive linemen when they're playing with Sue, you heard so much about Jordan Phillips and how he has this selective motor, and I feel like there's a little bit of that complacency that comes in with playing next to a guy that's so great that you don't have to worry about making all the plays.
Hmm.
So I think with that kind of added responsibility, we see a guy like him jump up. And even on the offense, you know, there's a few plays that probably don't happen if Landry's still here because Tannehill feels the need to force it to him, you
Hmm.
know?
Jordan Phillips to me has been a huge surprise. To me, he's been really good.
Oh yeah, no, he's been tremendous. I think it's never been, a talent or an ability issue with him. It's always been a want to kind of issue with him. And this year, I mean, maybe it's has something to do with the fact that it's a contract season for Jordan Phillips. I don't know,
Pay the man.
but you know, I think he's been fantastic so far. And Vincent Taylor, that draft that they had a few years back, or no, Vincent Taylor was a Godchild year, but still, those two guys are also really good.
What the front office has done has been remarkable, given what they had and what they turned it into. I mean, obviously, there's some things you can, you know, pick at, like not drafting a quarterback at any place, not being a little bit too complacent with the quarterbacks you have in the room, caring for quarterbacks, all that nonsense. But to me, what the front office has done has been great, and that's shows they're like the main reason why they're 3-0.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I think the front office, I don't want to speculate on what it is and what they're doing, but it seems to me like it seems like a really metric heavy approach, considering that all the things that Albert Wilson was good at. You heard of all these advanced stats that he was number one in the league on catches. When he caught the ball basically at the line of scrimmage, he was really good at getting yards after that. And
Hmm.
it feels like they really use those kind of advanced stats to really target guys in free agency this year.
Yeah, and speaking of free agency and Albert Wilson, I think he's been the most impactful free agent so far.
Oh, clearly. Oh, clearly. I mean, Danny Amendola is probably a little bit more useful in practical situations, your third downs and things like that. But just that element, that big play element that Albert Wilson brings is so huge.
This offense has been, I mean, at times when that little dink and dunk isn't working, then it gets kind of bad. But I mean, they can. I've never seen a Dolphins offense in the recent years that just in a snap can just score. Like, I mean, they scored what 21 points in a quarter and a half yesterday,
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
and I mean, they can run, man. They can run, and then you're getting Devontae hopefully healthy. I mean, he was even good. I mean, he only got targeted a few times, but he made some big plays. I'm really excited for this future of this offense.
Oh, who's going to emerge in the next couple weeks.
Who?
With the AJ Derby injury, I really liked what I saw in the few catches that he made from Mike Gesicki
Yeah,
on Sunday.
yeah. I
It was
mean,
really encouraging.
this. I'm just super excited. This is the most excited I think I've been. I'm sure most Dolphins fans can say they've been in years because this feels different. It even feels different more than the playoff team from a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Because with the playoff team a couple years ago, you knew who the guys were. You knew who was going to contribute. You knew who was expected to do what. And with this team, it's kind of they have a more uh, you know they've got a very socialist approach to their offense. They like
Love it,
to redistribute the wealth.
love it. Let's go. But and another thing, I mean, I'm not that type, football guy type of guy, but they're cocky. They're having fun. They're bullies this year, and it's refreshing to see.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, speaking of that, speaking of Crocky, all right. Um, I just need to make it a little bit less serious for a second. On that play where Albert Wilson took it to the house, Jakeem Grant was running at like 75% when he caught up to him, right?
Yeah,
Because he was jogging when he caught up to Albert Wilson.
it's crazy to think or crazy to say, but that is probably one of the most athletic things you will ever see.
Oh yeah,
Is Jakeem Grant catching up to Albert Wilson?
just jogging over there.
Just jogging. Albert Wilson, probably one of the fastest guys in the NFL. And Jakeem Grant just jogging, meeting him up at the 10-yard line, give him a high five. I mean, that was amazing to me. That was one of the most awesome things I can remember seeing the Dolphins do. They're just, I mean, the pictures that they're taking after Albert Wilson touchdowns, they're fun, man. And it's really refreshing to see. Like, man, I'm happy right now.
Also, I think Ryan Tannehill needs to work on his posing there.
Oh, he's a typical white guy, man. He's a white guy, you know.
But like, just put
He's
your
just gonna give the
hands
two
on the
thumbs up,
helmets,
two
or
thumbs up.
something.
He's not, that's the country music pros. Like, you're not gonna get anything cool from Tannehill when it comes to a pose without it being really cringeworthy. So I'm actually fine with him just keeping the white guy approach.
Just embrace it.
Just embrace the white guy because that's all you got. Okay, before we wrap this thing up, let's do it. Prediction time. Do they win Sunday at New England?
No, I think they lose 21-17.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think they're gonna fight. I think they will hold a lead in the fourth quarter, and Brady's gonna do what Brady does. That is my prediction. I'm gonna say 20-17, New England.
And it's a lot closer than I think it would be.
Yeah.
When I really think about it, and when you think about it on paper, the matchups, they seem to favor the Dolphins at just about every position but quarterback. But it's that Patriot, yeah, and coaching. But it's that Patriots mystique. It's that reputation that they've always had. That
they're not going 1-3. The Dolphins just happen to be the fourth game on their schedule, and they have to take the beating.
I mean, I was scared to death as soon as I heard Belichick say we're on to Miami.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all the time we got today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll have this every week, the Sonbeek podcast. Thank you again, Eric, for coming on.
Of course, no problem.
Enjoy your all week.